Cars that go up in value and make you money. We're gonna go over that all in this video. What's up guys, Ben Oberg here, back with another video. If you're brand new, you're gonna wanna consider subscribing if you're into building wealth outside the modern financial system, getting access to financial tools the advisors are too illiterate to tell you about. And today, we're gonna go into a few $1 million worth of cars here. Now, I wanna break down a couple ground rules here. I don't have the GT3 RS here today. I would walk you through that. There's other videos we've made on that, so make sure to go check those out. But what I do want to set the premise for here is cars are very nuanced. So we're gonna talk about brands that are overall safe investments. We're gonna talk about the tax strategy behind investing in cars. And I'm not just gonna talk about that 6,000 pound rule all the people use to rationalize getting a G-Wagon. I'm gonna talk about the tax perspective behind cars, exotics. I'm gonna talk about classics. I'm gonna talk about the nuances of evaluating if a vehicle is good to invest in. I'm going to talk about how you plan to use it in business, utility, out and about, and we're going to dive into some of my top favorites. So follow me and let's get into it. So we're going to start with classics here, and I want you to just first of all understand that not all classics are created the same. Sometimes you're paying for a really shitty restoration job. Sometimes you're buying a car that's good for the antique original value. Sometimes it's what's called numbers matching, where the engine and the paint code and the VIN and the transmission all match. They were the same one that came out from the factory. These are all things that you need to know, but I do not want you to get overwhelmed in like, okay, well, which classic do I buy? Or as Ben saying, buy a classic or buy a new car. I'll break it down ABC for all of you guys. When we're evaluating classics, we're gonna start with classics. You're talking about cars that are ranging from turn of the century, 1900s, all the way into the mid 70s, okay? When we're talking about American cars, this behind me is a 1968 Dodge Charger. The premise I want you to get here is how you would evaluate a classic car, okay? So first of all, Dodge had a pretty cool body style in the mid 60s to the early 70s. Now the Charger, according to most people, would argue to say that 1966, 1967 were fairly ugly cars. But the Fast and Furious Charger had the body of the 1968, the 1969 Charger. It's very nuanced though. Every year when you go into classic car history, they were usually making styling updates. A 1949 Ford to a 1951 Ford two-door coupe basically looked the same. But in one year they had one little bumper cone. In another year they had two bumper cones. Very nuanced. Just like in 1968, this is the only year the Charger had these tail lights that are round and kind of Ferrari looking. In 1969, you had a light bar going all the way across the back, but the bodies were virtually identical. Then you had all these different engine options. You had the 440 V8, you had a 383, you had a 318, you had in very rare situations what was called a 426 HEMI. And that HEMI broke the speed record, breaking 200 miles an hour with the Superbird, a car called the Superbird, which had this big spoiler wing in the back, and it actually was illegal and banned out of NASCAR because it was so freaking fast. So if you had that 426 HEMI engine, it became a very rare car. The same principle could be applied if you were looking at a Ford GT, which finally beat Ferrari in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and Ferrari had historically done very well at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So those cars, being iconic in history, having beaten Ferrari in a major race, and having had very limited production, became very rare in modern day. So you need to look at those nuances. Now, when it comes to my recommendations, I'm gonna get into new, we're gonna walk over, look at an M4, we're gonna look at a GT4, we're gonna look at some newer European stuff, but I'm gonna break down what the nuances are with classics, okay? So this is a 1973 Challenger. Pretty cool body style, a little bit shorter of a car than the Charger. Now, obviously, they literally took the modern day Challenger, paying homage to the early 70s Dodge Challengers from, 71, 72, 73 era. However, this is a 1973. 1973 is not rare in itself, really. The 70, the 71, the 72 Challengers are a little bit more sought after, and the reason being they're a little bit cooler body style, they're a little bit lower production numbers, and then again, here's how you evaluate. 4 speeds, manual transmissions and muscle cars that are older were generally rarer, okay? Is it a V8? Was it one of the higher performance engines in Dodges that would have been a 383, a 440, or a 426 HEMI? Is it a rare paint code, okay? All of those things sort of set the stage for, is it going to have collectible value? Is there a following for it? Is it the right year? Is it the right engine transmission pairing? Is it a rare or a highly sought after option? Or was it sort of a base model mass produced 6-cylinder engine? Those are things that you want to look at. But I want you to follow me and I want you to look at the restoration on on this vehicle. The other thing that you're paying for is restoration, okay? Now this is an aftermarket paint color and that's really cool, but you also want to pay attention to, like, look at the gaps here, okay? There's a gap here on this deck lid, all right, trunk is very tight here, and then it increases. And if you look very closely, you'll also see a line right here. This is because there was not a lot of body prep work done. So you could have a 1973 Challenger sitting here just like this one, and you could have another one that is gapped better, everything lines up, the paint prep was good, so there's no cracks in here, and it's a higher quality restoration. Could have the same engine, the same transmission, that's gonna get more money, it's going to be more sellable, it's gonna appreciate better because of the quality of the restoration. So those are some of the things when you're looking at cars that are going to appreciate. Now let's talk about numbers for a second. Later I'll get into taxes, practical use, and how these can actually make you money. Again, if you're brand new, smash that like button, and in the comments below, let me know, what do you drive? Are you into cars? Are you brand new to cars? Do you invest in cars? Let me know what you drive in the comments. I try to reply to as many of them as possible. So now we're gonna go over and we're gonna look at BMW M4. We're also going to look at a Porsche GT4, okay? And like I said, I don't have the GT3 RS here, but I've made a lot of shorts on my YouTube channel here. You see it in a lot of my other content. So I would recommend go and look at that because I do give a breakdown of the nuances of supercars and how to evaluate specific trim options, etc. As something that's going to appreciate. My Porsche made me 30 grand last year before it went up in value, and I'm going to explain how in just a little bit here. So the next lesson I want you to get is understanding spec. Both of these cars are considered fairly good track cars. They're a fairly popular track car, which gives it some really good use, which gives it some really good intrinsic value. But the M4 competition in this particular model, this is an M4 GTS, very limited production, okay? It has a roll cage, it has some aftermarket aerodynamics on it, it's a rare spec, it's got rare options. So you're taking M4, which is already a popular BMW, you're going competition, you're going GTS. GTS is like the full racing version of the BMW M4, and that GTS is very limited production. Very few were made. People crash them. There's not a whole lot of them around. None of the parts are mass produced. They're not swappable. A lot of the engine parts are not swappable from one engine compared to another. So it makes this car very, very unique. This holds its value very, very well. Then you have what's called a Guards Red GT4 here. This Guards Red is not a rare color. The GT4 isn't even a rare color. But when you get into the GT3 RS, you immediately move into a vehicle that has won Nürburgring lap records, okay? It has a very iconic body style. It's built by a brand that has stood the test of time, that doesn't change body style up too much, that simply refined something that they already were really good at and made it better and better and better. So the GT3 RS that I have is already limited production, okay? I want you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to say, okay? This is stuff that you can take out a notebook and just write down. All right, and this goes for $50,000 cars, $100,000 cars, $1 million cars. The GT3 RS that I have, $245,000 MSRP brand new, the build sheet that I have on it. It's what's called a Weissach Package. This is the magnesium roof, this is the carbon fiber hood, this is roll cage, this is the racing seats in it, this is the lightened package that has made it a little bit more track worthy. It's all of these different features on it. Weissach Package was an extra like $25,000 in the build. It's got carbon composite brakes. It's got the upgraded brake system. It has a front axle lift. You combine all of these specs and then you say it's on a GT3 RS, and you say that it's Guards Red, and you say that it's a 2019. Now what we've effectively said on a production level is a car that they only made 1,000 of for the US market in 2019, that only 3% were Guards Red in the Weissach Package. You now are talking about only a small amount of that production that actually is that spec. So when you're already in a limited supply market with max demand in a car that has lap records, in a car that's flashy and fun and showy, in a car that is a thoroughbred street legal race car for arguably a pretty low barrier to entry compared to a lot of other super cars, for the performance that it has, and you break all that down, and it's very rare. Huge demand, small supply, and every idiot millennial that gets in it and doesn't know how to drive and crashes half of them helps the supply that's available diminish even more. So that vehicle is appreciating, going up year after year after year after year in value, but it makes me money, and I'm going to get into that right now. So how do you make money with cars and what cars actually make money. So let's talk about cars that actually make you money and pay you back. I use it for business, okay? And if you use a vehicle for 51% of the time or more for business, you have a lot of write-offs you can get access to. Now there's what's called Section 179 of the IRS tax code that, coupled with bonus depreciation, allows you to write off the majority of a purchase of a vehicle. When it's over 6,000 pounds and used for business, if it's an SUV or a truck with a bed that's 6 feet or longer, and I don't know why that 6-foot rule is, maybe if you're trying to like kill people and you can put dead bodies in the back of it, I don't know. But if it's a van, an SUV, or a truck with a 6-foot bed or longer and it weighs more than 6,000 pounds, you can depreciate 60% of it in the first year of ownership. What this means for you is if you are making $100,000 a year of earned income, and you buy a $100,000 F-350, for example, those new trucks are expensive, and it doesn't have to be new necessarily, okay? You can depreciate 60% of that purchase price in the first year, so $60,000. So you're making $100,000 of earned income, you have a $60,000 write-off, your tax basis on your earned income is now $40,000. And you could have financed it. You didn't have to go spend that $100,000 of cash. Now, to the extent you use it for business, you can also write off the mileage, 65.5 cents a mile. You can write off the maintenance cost. You can write off anything that you put into the vehicle. Upgrades, okay? If you're going and taking meetings with it, you're using it in marketing, you're using it to conduct business, you own a landscaping company, you can literally use it to go to Starbucks where you are meeting somebody to talk about a business deal. It's a business expense. And you don't necessarily have to meet Section 179 bonus depreciation and that 6,000 pound rule. The Weissach Package RS only weighs about 3,000 pounds. But because of the purchase price, I was able to come up with about $20,000 of depreciation and another $11,000 of bonus depreciation for a total of just shy of $30,000. It was $19,000 and $11,000. I was able to come up with $30,000 of depreciation in 2024. That vehicle paid me 30 grand back, so I'm able to lower my taxable income. If I was making $150,000 in a year, my taxable income basis is now $120,000. It paid me back because I don't have to pay the IRS as much. I can send them a middle finger instead. Sometimes I just make a photocopy of my ass cheeks and send it to them. That's what I've been trying to do for the last couple years. But in addition to this, cars that go up in value, that make you money, do just that. They go up in value. So this Weissach package is worth more every single year because it's very rare, because it's a huge demand, because Porsche is saying, hey, by 2026, we're not going to develop this flat 6 motor anymore. It is what it is. It will become a dinosaur of the past, and then we'll probably move into EV powered stuff and more hybrid energy, and it will become an icon in time, and it already is. So this vehicle is giving me depreciation every single year against my earned income in business, and it's going up in value. So the IRS says, hey, it's worth less and less and less and less each year, and I'm going to allow you to depreciate this, Ben, against your earned income. But the market is saying it's going up and up and up and up and up. So today, we covered what we look at in cars that go up in value, cars that make you money. We started with classic cars, muscle cars, and I gave you the nuances of that. We talked about bad restorations versus good restorations. We talked about how finite changes were back in the muscle car era and the classic car era. Then we went into modern and exotics, newer cars, and then we broke down the tax laws that allow you to get depreciation, put money back in your pocket, and we talked about cars that appreciate in value, all in this video. Again, if you want to learn more about this, I've included a link in the description. I want to invite you to the Capitalist Network, where we teach you how to actually get lines of credit against your vehicles, invest in hard assets like an institutional grade investor, and get access to all the multi-millionaire and billionaire investment partners I work with every single day, so you can learn our investment strategies in real estate, oil, precious metals, get the best deals that you can on institutional grade financial products that most people are not aware of, and learn how to truly build real wealth outside of the modern financial system. Drop a comment below, let me know what car you drive, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.